because I've seen some guys are like, I just give them a retail price right then and there. And then that's why I'm like, I don't understand. But
I think you guys could have done better on your deal where you lost that one deal because you gave them the $1 million estimate and they found somebody for 300.
Yeah.
I wouldn't give them the estimate. I'd just agree to perform all repairs.
I worked with the engineer and the adjuster and came up with that price. And then the lady.
Did you already have them signed?
No.
Oh. Ooh.
Yeah. Well, yeah. This was like.
I can't get back up, guys. Hold on. Oh my gosh.
I know it was a rough one. It was a learning curve.
Sorry for the dramatic. You guys like.
It was a Harvard learning.
Yeah, that was all right. So look, I never ever give my client a copy of my Xactimate estimate until they sign with me. That's number one. Number two, I never ever make any contact with the insurance company on the client's behalf unless they've signed with me. Never. No adjuster meetings, no building consultants, no engineers, none of that. No way. For that reason, right there, that cost $1 million to this family business. You know what I mean? $1 million, like that's like one of the most extreme examples. I don't want them to see my cards, okay? I want them to write the estimate first, and then again, remember, you're caught up on the, okay, now I have to do it. No. I'm already signed, remember? I'm already signed. When they give me their cards, I've already got the job. I'm already signed. I'm already contractually obligated to do what? To perform all repairs that are prescribed by the insurance adjuster. Period. You see what I mean? So when they come out and they write that estimate for whatever it is, 300, whatever it is, right? Okay, I'm ordering material. As soon as the first payment gets on board, I'm taking all that money off the table and I'm building. This group. All right, guys.
Adjuster $1,000 cash to get a better estimate.
All right. Okay, look. So,
No, he did it. He just giggled.
So look, recap it. We're at 36 is where we ended up. 36,602. Okay, with a bunch of lame siding. Okay. Now, I wrote an estimate on this at this point. You know, I wanted to see where I was at on everything. And my estimate was like I'll show it to you in a minute, but it's like, it was 88 something thousand. But at this point, you got to understand, my estimates are always way higher than the adjuster's report, pretty much always. It's never close. It's way off. Big reason for that is because I did the inspection, so I found a bunch more damage. You know, it's way higher. The thing I want to bring your attention is that when you do that, and I know you probably have had this experience where you send your estimate into somebody, adjuster looks at it and they freak out. They're like, oh, this is crazy, you know, and the first thing they do is they call your client instead of calling you. And they're like, where did you find these people? They're unreasonable. They're charging all kinds of crazy stuff, right? I think I'm pretty cynical about that. I think that's intentional. I think that's part of their strategy, you know, to drive a wedge between you and your client, you know. And the best way I found to deal with that is back to the educating your client. You know, letting them know as you're signing them up how the insurance process works, and that one of the most frequent things that they do is they contact them with that game. You know, and if you let your client know that call's coming, then when they do call, they're saying that, and the client's like, well, my contractor told me you'd be calling with that nonsense. You know what I mean? So that's kind of that's the best way I know. Most of what I'm talking about is preventative maintenance, keeping yourself out of those pitfalls, right? And someone mentioned common sense, you know. I find most of this stuff is really just common sense in a world and industry that not a lot of common sense is applied, you know. And so I just think, you know, they're going to be they're far apart, they're going to freak out. And when I do get them on the phone with me, you know, then they're like, you know, they're freaking out. And the way for me to bring them into perspective is to say, what item or items in the estimate did you have a problem with, right? Like just to calm them down and bring them back down. because I really need them to look through that estimate item by item. You know, I feel like I can win in that arena, and I could justify it item by item, right? And everything I do is all about documentation. So I gain documentation at the inspection with the photos, and you'll see in the code game, I use the code snippets, right, as documentation, those together along with extensive footnotes and other things, documentation to build the estimate, right? And then so I am usually starting at a much higher position than most, but I'm ending up at a higher position. If you hear that, you might say, well, Chad, you're just throwing as much as you can at the wall to hoping for it to stick. Maybe so, but if I am doing it it's calculated, it's strategic, right? And so because I know that the estimate is so far apart, usually if you send that estimate into the insurance company as your starting point, that's what they do, they freak out, right? But then, if it's that far apart, you're just kind of wasting your time with any arguments with that adjuster, because they're just going to schedule a re-inspect. You with me? Like, if it's that far apart, they're just going to schedule a re-inspection, and there's going to be a second adjuster assigned to it to come out. I pretty much know that, you know? Like, so this is USAA. I know that if I send them an $88,000, it's like 1 out of 100 are they going to prove that from the inside. It does happen, you know, but they're going to send another adjuster. I know it. Now, if they send another adjuster, like if I meet a field adjuster at any time at an estimate or inspection, usually the adjuster asks me, like, or most of the time, do you have an estimate, right? No, I don't have an estimate, okay? Why don't I have an estimate? Because my job is to do whatever it is that you prescribe. So I don't know yet what it is that I'm going to be writing an estimate on until it's approved, right? I don't know I don't know. So like, how can I write, my job on this particular deal, again, I do whatever is prescribed by the insurance company. I saw this, my marching orders, I went and tried to do that and couldn't do it, okay? So do I send the estimate to the insurance company at this point? No, because I don't want them to see my cards.
Your $88,000 estimate, you don't want them
Correct,
to see that.
correct.
But you said automatically they'll send a second adjuster.
Right, right.
That guy's going to know that you have an estimate because he saw it. He's going out.
That's the logic, right? And I'll give you a couple little examples to really make this come home for this job, like what happened on this job, right? And both ways. So if I send them the estimate, the reason why they're going to do a re-inspect usually is because there's a lot of new damage on there that they didn't see. And usually their policies are that the field adjuster has to go and lay eyes on it, document it. Even if you send them photos of it, they have to go do it themselves. That's usually the case, right? And I know that. But if I go and meet with an adjuster, I don't want him to see my estimate. I don't want him to have my cards, to see my cards. I would rather them write the estimate first. See, because I want to be a counterpuncher, right? I'm better as a counterpuncher, not first attack.
You miss stuff on your own estimate.
That's right. I want them to come to me with the estimate. That's the prescription, and then I react, okay? And so, like, yeah, go ahead.
So, all right, so let's say Mrs. Jones' house has damaged shingles. She calls me, and then I'm like, okay, hey, you need to get your insurance involved. Then I don't give them, because I've seen some guys are like, I just give them a retail price right then and there. And then that's why I'm like, I don't understand. But
I think you guys could have done better on your deal where you lost that one deal because you gave them $1 million estimate and they found somebody for 300.
Yeah.
I wouldn't give them the estimate. I'd just agree to perform all repairs.
We worked with the engineer and the adjuster and came up with that price. And then the lady.
Did you already have them signed?
No.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. Well, yeah. This was like.
I can't get back up, guys. Hold on. Oh my gosh.
I know it was a rough one. It was a learning curve.
Sorry for the dramatic. You guys like.
That was a Harvard learning.
Yeah, that was Harvard. So look, I never ever give my client a copy of my Xactimate estimate until they sign with me. That's number one. Number two, I never ever make any contact with the insurance company on the client's behalf unless they've signed with me. Never. No adjuster meetings, no building consultants, no engineers, none of that. No way. For that reason, right there, that cost $1 million to this family business. You know what I mean? $1 million! Like that's like one of the most extreme examples.
Like, hey Manny, what's up? He's like, I think we hired somebody else, and I was like, crush your
Yeah.
throat right now, man.
Duh.
So what do they sign?
Yeah, good point. Good point, right? We'll get to that when I show you the contract paperwork. You guys have some documents. You now have them. By the way, I was looking back through my thing. I only saw 4 new users. I thought I set up more than 4. Did anybody not get the email that I sent out?
Well, I didn't get it.
You didn't get it. You didn't get it, and you didn't get it.
What is it?
There's 8 people here. I should have.
I didn't,
You're in. Oh yeah, 5. I had 5.
probably didn't sign in mine yet.
Okay, you're set up. I saw your name. There's a couple I'm missing. I don't know how that happened. I guess it didn't save all the way or something. We'll fix that. And then I sent out a promo code to those 5 people or to those 4 people. But I noticed that I was missing some people. I'll make sure that we get you in before the next break.
Oh, just to follow up with that question. So we go there, they say, hey, your insurance company's coming out. I wait for their adjuster to come out and identify damage. Then I see their quote.
Now, yeah.
I come back with, hey, this is what I see to fix it.
Sure, but look, by the way, I noticed you said wait for them to identify damage. You're allowed to identify damage.
Okay.
You aware of that? Okay, like I'm saying that because I caught that, you saying that, and I'm thinking it might come from one of those things you've been to that says you're not allowed to identify damage.
Sometimes there's just too much information.
You're right, sure, and there's different schools of thought, right? You could take whatever my school of thought is for whatever it's worth, right? But people say, you can't even talk, because I told you can't talk about policy coverage. That's it though, that's it. Right? People say, you're not allowed to talk about the estimate with the adjuster. Oh, yes, you are. You're not allowed to identify damage. Yes, you are. In fact, you better know how to identify damage, right? You're not allowed to talk about the price with the adjuster. Yes, you are. You're not allowed to argue with them. Yes, you are. We can go 12 rounds. You know what I mean? You're allowed to do all that. You just can't talk about the price. But let me keep moving, okay? Because I'm going to answer, I think, what a lot of your concerns are. So I don't want them to see my cards, okay? I want them to write the estimate first, and then again, remember, you're caught up on the, okay, now I have to do that. No. I'm already signed, remember? I'm already signed. When they give me their cards, I've already got the job. I'm already signed. I'm already contractually obligated to do what? To perform all repairs that are prescribed by the insurance adjuster. Period. You see what I mean? So when they come out and they write that estimate for whatever it is, 300, whatever it is, right? Okay, I'm ordering material. As soon as the first payment gets on board, I'm taking all that money off the table and I'm building. I'm at least starting the build. I'm getting stuff moving. I'm setting up my job site. I'm setting up, sounds like a bigger job, safety, bring in some heavy equipment, cordon off the area, start the process. Let's start it. You see what I mean? There's not enough money there, but the coverage is there. Let's plant our flag and start building. You see? And so when I come at the insurance company, I'm like, look, I'm trying to carry out your prescription, right? And I'm actively trying it. I'm building. And I got problems that I need to take up with you. And here they are. You see what I mean? And so the other, like a third rule I'd throw in with that is I'm always supplementing before the build. I have to throw that out there because I found so many people, contractors through the years that come to me for the virtual estimating and for the supplementing service. And they're like, okay, I got these 50 deals I want to hire you on. I'm like, okay, let's take a look at them. And let's see them. All 50 of them are already done. They're already built and done. And they want me to go supplement after the fact, right? Oh, you laugh on that's like more common than not. Most people, yeah. And then I'm like, dude, you can't be doing that. And they're all like, I know. But I've been too busy, right? And now, can I go get them extra money after the build? Yes, I can. I've gotten them more money. I can go back and get the price list updated, or if there's clearly things that were on the roof before and we're missing from the estimate there. But I'm going to get more money, but I have my hands tied behind my back because the insurance company, what do they say? If you have any differences, you're supposed to take that up with us before the build, right? Why did you wait till after? So I don't have any leverage because they can basically just shut me down. Anything they approve is just as a matter of courtesy, right? Because I went to them after the build. But if I go before the build, if I present everything to them before the build, then I'm going to know which items they're going to push back on, and those are the items that I'm going to go all in to document during the build, right? So I'm getting a little ahead of myself because that comes later. But let me go through this. All right. So on this one here, what I did first, the way around not sending them the estimate and getting the re-inspect to occur, because if I know they're going to do the re-inspect anyway, if I send them the estimate, I want to get on to the re-inspect. But I'd like to skip the estimate if I can, Okay? How do I do that? Easy. I take and I print out a photo report, an Xactimate photo report without the line items. So I've got the cover sheet, right? And looks something like this. And you can see this is, I've got my opening statement on it. It's got 172 pages here, 2 pictures per page, okay? This is the job. This is it starts with my drone shots. I actually do drone video and take screen grabs. I go the long way, man, because I just find it so beautiful, you know. Like I'll go and focus on the parts that I like the best in the drone video. But anyway, this is the siding that they said that just needed repaired, right? Let me scroll on down and give you some better shots. It's clearly damaged all the way around. We got holes in it, you know.
Is it wind claim?
Hurricane Michael. Look at that. Let's just repair it a little bit, guys.
Was that all hardy?
Yeah, all hardy. So, you know, to give you an idea of my inspection, this is my drone first, and I don't do this a lot, but I did this on this one. I took some shots of the surrounding area, you know, just to hammer it home that we had 155 mile an hour winds, and this whole area was demolished. How can you expect the siding to be still held together, the fasteners, right? Look at those trees, you know, that really, you know, like can paint. I'm trying to set the whole scene, you know, really not just the damage, but the scene of the house, the whole, you know, and the surrounding areas, right? Trying to paint a picture for whoever it is that's going to review this on the inside. But I'm sending the photo report without the estimate and then following up, and my play is, look, I'm trying to follow your prescription here, right? And I can't. So because, you know, I can't do a minimal repair. It's going to have to be replaced. There's just no question about it. You know, look at the photos. Look, it's 155 mile an hour wind. You're going to have to get another adjuster out here. That will usually work to trigger, what in the world is going on, guys? What am I doing? The technical difficulties here. That will usually work to trigger the re-inspect, simply just a photo report, right? I wish I could say it worked on this particular case. It didn't, but that's why I like that it didn't, because I can show you both ways. The next example I'm going to give you did work, right? So what I mean by it didn't work is they said, as soon as I sent them the photo report, they're like, okay, send us the estimate. Like, dang, you know what I mean? So that will happen. It does, just a perfect example that it doesn't always work, but you try it anyway. You exhaust the options, okay? You go through, jump through the hoops. And so I sent the photo report. They got back to send us an estimate. Like, okay, great. But don't be discouraged on that either because of what happened next. I sent them the estimate. Then they scheduled the re-inspect, which I expected. New adjuster comes out, like you said earlier, but he's going to have my estimate, right? He didn't have it. You see? So like he's a re-inspect. He came out, he's from Louisiana. He's more seasoned. And first thing he asked me is, do you have an estimate? And I said, well, you know, I've got the structure of one in place. I've got the framework of one in place. I've been working on it, right? But mainly, I don't know what it is that you're approving, right? Like I'm working off of the first estimate, and it had a bunch of repair stuff on there. And I can't perform the repairs that are prescribed by the claim because of the law and a bunch of other things. So I need you to come and do a walkthrough with me and approve this siding to be fully replaced, right? And then if we can do that and agree on some things, you know, I use Xactimate, right? Which I knew because he's USAA, right? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, great. I use Xactimate too. If he doesn't ask me this next, which he did, I'm going to ask him. But then he says, when I say I use Xactimate, he says, yeah. He says, can you just send me the ESX file? Can you just send me the ESX file? So in Xactimate.
So you're doing his job for him.
Yes. So here, this is a PDF report. Most Xactimate reports, when you export, it's a PDF report, .pdf, right? You have the .esx file too, though, which is the data file, the Xactimate data file. So if I sent that to you, someone's going to knock me over or something. If I sent that to you and you tried to open it, you couldn't open it, right? You'd have to import that into your Xactimate software and then open it up. But you're looking at my estimate at that point. You could put your own logo on it. You could start making changes to it, knock some of my items off if you want to, and complete the project, right? And so that's why he wants my ESX file, because of how long it took me to write the estimate, you know what I mean? And he doesn't want to have to go through that. And if I've done the photos good enough, if I've got the right code documentation, footnotes, measurements and all that, right? I've done his job for him. Talking about sketching, all the interior rooms are all sketched out. He doesn't even have to measure it. You know what I mean? He can look at my work and say, kind of grade my paperwork and say, is this right? Yeah, this is right. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't even have to measure it if he doesn't want to. The amount of time that I'm saving him,
And you're not
right?
getting profit.
Huh?
And you're not getting profit.
Right, right? It's like, but that's my goal though, is to do their job for them. Wrap it up in a bow and do it for them for many reasons, more than the ones you're thinking of right now, I guarantee you, okay? Let me explain it to you. All right, now, so on this particular case, I sent them the photo report, right? It doesn't work. They said, send me the estimate. So I sent them the estimate, and I'll show you the estimate. Start that, okay. And, well, before I do, let me just show you a few more photos. I just want to take, this is a good lesson here. When I'm taking photos on inspections, okay, on exterior inspections, for example, I want to start by taking one photo, I think you just saw it a minute ago, of the front elevation, where I can see everything on the front elevation, everything on the roof lines, everything, right? The idea is, I learned this from the virtual estimating, right? Is that if people send me all these, I'd say, send me more photos, and they'd send me more photos, and it'd be a bunch of close-ups of damage. And I don't even know what part of the roof I'm looking at, or the siding, or whatever, or even if it's the same house, And so it helps, I'm empathetic to the inside desk adjuster who's looking at this and has never been there, and they're trying to make sense of this. At all times, I'm trying to write my estimate suitable to be approved from the inside, without the need for re-inspects or any of that, right? And so for that reason, I need to set the scene of the whole property for someone who's never been there, okay? So if you were to send me your deal, it's a roof, you want me to write an estimate for you, and you send me a couple pictures, I want everything on the roof line in that one shot, because from one photo, I can count up how many pipe jacks and stuff there are on the front elevation, right? That's why I want that one photo. Sometimes there's more roof lines and you'll need to slide over and get a couple of the front. Then I'll go around to the right elevation, and sometimes I need to get all the way across the street to get that, you know what I mean? But I'll go to the right elevation, the right, rear, right, left, just one shot. Then I come back around to the front again, all right? And if I'm on the front elevation, like here, say this is the front elevation, this is the corner of the house, the left corner of the house over here, and say there's damage right here, then I want to start by getting a photo over here showing, so everybody knows I'm on the front left corner of this property. Maybe you can see the front door in it over there, right? You know where you're at, and the damage is right there. So now I'm going to get in a little closer and show you where I'm going. Then I'm going to show the damage. You see what I mean? So it's usually 3 or more shots of every piece of damage. And then, so I would just go, so I would return to the front and start from the left side and slowly comb every inch of the front elevation. Like none of that front elevation is going to escape my purview. It must be, every inch has to be cleared. Well, do you have a checklist for this, Chad? Yeah, it's right there. It's my camera. You know what I mean? I'm inspecting everything. So checklists are pointless to me, But literally, like we talked about, the brick, and then if it's not brick, it's some kind of a painted surface. I want to know anywhere on this front elevation, if it's hail, is there one hail spot, one chip out of the paint? Just one is all I need on this front elevation to get the whole front elevation repainted. And it's not just repainted, it's detach and reset the downspouts and the shutters, right? And the hose bib and the electrical outlets, right? The house numbers, the mailbox, the light fixtures, right? All these things got to come off and then be reattached. It has to be cleaned before it's painted. That's just paint. If it's stucco, stucco's got to be repaired. Siding's got to be repaired. Brick, right? And so I won't know that unless I comb every inch of every piece of the property. That's why it takes me 2 to 3 hours, guys. You know what I mean? And so like every piece of window trim and every threshold, every door, every light fixture, every mailbox, everything is getting inspected for signs of damage, right? And then move all around to the right, rear, left elevation, rinse, wash, repeat. And then it's the other structures, like if it's a fence, I'd like to get a shot of the whole fence in one frame if I could. If I can't, at least the whole run, showing the whole thing, and then in on the damage, right? And then so, as far as interior damage, so you can see every inch of this property, you know what I mean? These are see that siding from underneath. It's all waterlogged, warped, and just terrible. Go down to the interior here. Well, it was funny, in an Oklahoma City event, one of my buddies was in the meeting, one of my good friends, he was sitting in the back, and he told me later, he said the guy next to him, when I said that I take at least 300 photos, he was like, yeah, right, that dude don't take 300 photos. And then, of course, I pulled this up, and it's like 172 pages, 2 photos per. This is just minor. Okay, so on the interior, this shot right here is a good one. I like to go, before I even go into the room in question, I want to take the picture from outside the window, right? From outside the door, walking in. So you know where I'm going, okay? And then when I go into the room, I want to again set the scene, okay? So I would walk in and I would turn to my left, so I usually like to go clockwise. So I would turn to my left and I want to get a shot of where the ceiling meets the walls. Is there crown molding? Is there wallpaper meeting drywall like it is here? What's up there? And then I want to tilt it down and get a shot where the floor meets the walls. What kind of baseboard? I can see the flooring a little bit. Is there a base? Is there a base shoe? On there. So like I can see that. And then I go into the room and walk over to the left corner. Turn to my left, up, down. Turn this way, up, down. Go over to this corner. You know what I mean? Kind of like the Matterport action, only manual. I'm a manual Matterport, man. You go over here, left, up, down, right? Go, turn, up, down, go over here, up, down, up, down, up, down. Now I've got the whole room. Now, and the significance of that is I can count how many light fixtures there are on the ceiling, how many registers, smoke detectors. I can see all of the blinds, drapery. I know how many windows there are, how many doorways there are, right? I can see everything in that room. And then the water spot, then farther back to see where I'm at in the room, take a shot, then walk in closer, take another shot, then get up on the spot, shot, right? And that's what I do in every single room, closet, and hallway. You know what I mean? It's crazy. And then I go up into the attic, right? Because if the deck needs replaced, but we don't pay for rot under the policy. I didn't say rot, I said non-nailable sheathing, right? That's a building code, must be paid for, right? What's non-nailable sheathing? Well, does it have too many holes in it from too many roof systems? That's non-nailable sheathing. Is it warped? That's non-nailable sheathing. Is it sagging? Non-nailable sheathing. Is it, you know what I mean? Is it wet? That's non-nailable sheathing. Is it rotted? That's non-nailable sheathing. You know what I mean? And so I didn't say rot, I said non-nailable sheathing. That's just one of the codes. Then I said this before. Another code is water saturated underlayment, water soaked decking, right? So if I can see a lot of this from just going into the attic, And so if I see that issue before the build, because I'm supplementing before the build, maybe I can get them to approve the deck before the build, right? And so I'll come back to that later when I get to the invoicing. I want you to remember that specific example, okay? But back to this. I'm doing the attic, drone, inside every room, closet, hallway, all the elevations, all the other structures, right? Collecting my documentation for the best and most accurate estimate I can come up with, right? And so in this case, I sent them the photo report first. It didn't work. They wanted the estimate, so I sent them the estimate. Here's the estimate, right? Okay, this is a part I want to stop on right here. We're getting ready to get deep, guys. I love this part. Let me blow it up a little bit. Oops, too big. So remember, my biggest goal is to get the siding approved, okay? So I want to, before I even got into the estimate, I wrote out these 5 reasons why I thought the siding needed to be approved. These are customized. They're not templated that I copied from somewhere, It's for this job. See, I think every job is unique and it's different. Like, I think too many people are templating things, right? So look, I'm going to read this to you word for word because I need to. It's going to have to sink in for you. It's going to be so worth it for you. Look at this. So the original adjuster's report, I'm going to say one more thing before I get started. I've listed 5 reasons of why the siding needs to be replaced in full. 5 separate reasons, okay? I believe it could get bought with any one of these reasons. But if there were just one reason, what kind of rebuttal are they going to come back with? You know, I want to bury them. You know what I mean? I want to put the nail in the coffin, cut them off at the pass, or anywhere they might be wanting to go. That's the purpose of this. And so I came up with 5 reasons, wrote it out for them. Here it is. The original adjuster's report only indicates that a minimal amount of siding needs to be replaced. The minimum amount specified is not estimated correctly, as the adjuster used incorrect line items, nor did the adjuster use or include code-related items to address air leaking, R values of insulation required, flashing, dry sheathing being required, etc. Furthermore, only replacing a minimal amount would not suffice for the following reasons. Number 1, all of the siding, 100%, has been extensively damaged by Hurricane Michael. Now, that's another way of saying direct physical damage, which is lingo, policy lingo, that I don't use, but that's another way for me to say it. That is the easiest way to get something bought, anything. Like there's hail damage on the pipe jack. That's direct physical damage. It was directly damaged by the hail. It needs to be replaced, right? So my contention here is that all over the siding, it's a direct, in other words, I don't have to blame it on, you know, the flashing is behind the siding, so the siding has to come off and it's discontinued, so it's got to be replaced, you know, consequential, one thing leads to another. That's not this first reason. First reason is it's direct physical damage, right? Please see the attached images showing the surrounding neighborhood damaged by extremely high winds. This caused massive damage to the siding fasteners from pulling apart, causing water to get behind the siding, thus completely destroying whatever was not already damaged by wind. See attached photos. Much of the siding has been completely torn off, including the moisture barrier underneath, all the way down to the sheathing, causing further water damage to the sheathing and the interior insulation. Number 2, even if we could only replace parts of the siding, building codes require, see attached codes in the images section, that the underlying sheathing be dry. Much of it was damaged and is water soaked from the hurricane and rain that came after. Number 3, even if we could replace only minimal amounts of the siding, the existing siding has been discontinued and is no longer available for purchase. Number 4, even if we could only replace minimal amounts of the siding, and even if it were available for purchase, this siding does not meet current product specifications required by building codes and could not be used. See attached codes in the images section. Number 5, even if we could only replace minimal amounts of the siding, and even if it were available for purchase, and even if the existing siding product specifications were acceptable, building codes require the energy conservation code, see attached codes in the images section, insulation be installed due to the R value requirements for exterior walls. For all of the above reasons and more, because I do have more reasons that I keep in my back pocket in case I need them, you know what I mean? Like I like to keep extra reasons on hand. This estimate includes 100% of the siding being removed and replaced, as well as all of the associated components required to complete the project. Okay? So before I even get into any of my line items, I'm laying this reasoning out. I also want to say that in this estimate, 206 pages, again, the images in the back, codes and images are 2 pages or 2 images per page, so it's a lot, right? What I try to always do, guys, is include all the documentation that I collect, and when everything's together, and put it into the estimate. I want everything that I come up with to be in one PDF report. Not 5 PDF reports, not a PDF report and then a link to photos, not a PDF report and then a bunch of photos. No. All those photos, guys, hundreds of them, are in this PDF report, and it's a PDF report, so it can be emailed anywhere. And one email, okay? Significance of that is I'm creating a source of data, of information, meaning I never expect that any adjuster will actually read my estimate and actually look at it. Okay, that's usually a pushback, like, dude, you put so much stuff in there, how do you expect them to even read it? Good point, I don't, okay? I don't think they're gonna read it, okay? Like, I can tell you, but it's not, look, listen, okay, Chad, why do you have that on your estimate? Because it's required by code. Okay, send it to us on city letterhead. No, I don't need to do that because it's on page 36. You see what I mean? Why do you have these items? Well, they're damaged and they're required. Well, send us photos of the damage. I don't need to because that's on page 71 through 75. You see what I'm doing here? They want you off the phone. They don't want to deal with it right now. So if you don't have it in that report and you got to get off the phone to go send it to them, you go get it, send it to them, call them back. If it's State Farm, you call back State Farm and you're like, hey, I sent you in the thing. Oh, that takes a day or so to upload it in the system. You have to call us back. You know what I mean? It's the time is money thing. Everything that the insurance industry is designed for is designed to stall. Everything, if you really think about it, everything's designed to stall, delay, deny, defend. The longer they're holding on to your money, the better off they are, the worse off you are. It's on a grand scale. So everything I do is trying to combat that, every little part, right? I don't want to get off the phone not once. Everything is there. All the photos are there, all the codes, everything is there. That makes sense? Like State Farm cannot look at your link to photos. They can't do that. I don't know why. It's like they're on a different planet or something. But they can't like connect to the internet. You know what I mean? But they can view your PDF report. Anybody can. So that's my purpose, okay? To bury that point home, I was in Leawood, Kansas on a tree damage job. Residential, 3-floor. It's like, I had like a $400,000 estimate. It was extensive damage. And they started with like 27. You know, they came out there. It was Liberty Mutual. They came out, the adjuster came out there on the re-inspect, right? And it was one of those things where I had to send him the estimate. And so he came out, and I'm expecting him not to have my estimate, but he had it. He's got it printed out on a clipboard, like the whole thing, with notes on it and stuff. And I was like, that's weird, you know? Like, you got my estimate. He's like, oh yeah, you did a great job, man. This is really written really well, a lot of details. Like, oh, thanks, but I didn't think he read it, you know what I mean? And we go on through. I remember we were in the kitchen, there's structural damage. I'm trying to explain to him, yeah, we got to do this and that. He's like, oh yeah, no, I read the estimate. I remember that part in the end. And it dawned on me, he really did read that damn estimate. And I was like, I got goosebumps, you know? And a freaking tear came to my eye. Like, I was that touched, guys. I was really it never happens to me. But I was like, man, he really appreciated my work and recognized me, you know? I was just like beaming that he actually read it, because it just doesn't happen. All right, but so like, why do you go through all this work? It's because I'm just creating a source that we could always point to. It's on page this, it's on page that. We don't have to get off the phone. They would love to push off. By the way, when you do call back and they do have it, you got to deal with a different adjuster and bring them up to speed. Hopefully the first one logged it that they're waiting for your photos. Ridiculous, right? So it's just, they just create rules as they go along, right? Now look, one of my estimate here. So we got the front elevation. And you can see I'm doing a lot of detailed footnotes and things, right? Now, one thing to note is I write my estimates a little bit different than most, in the sense that I like to write my estimates in the order of the job, okay? So like you would see on their estimate, it'd say R&R siding, R&R this, right? My thing is remove this, remove this, remove this, remove this, remove this, and then go back and replace, 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 replace. I like to separate the removal. I don't like to write R&R. One benefit is I can do a footnote on the removal and a footnote on the replacement. You see what I mean? But there's also it's a strategic reason of why I like to do it that way, which will come into place a little bit later. But so in this here, I've got remove fiber, cement, lap siding, remove shingle type panel, remove house wrap, remove sheathing, replace sheathing, sidewall flashing, window wraps, garage door trim, sill flashing, moldable tape, house wrap, fan fold insulation being replaced. And then if you notice, underneath the replacement items, I generally like to put in footnotes there that these are actually, there's an option in Xactimate where you can insert the item note, okay? Which means like if you clicked on illustration for that item, it shows you what it all includes, right? That's what that is. I took and inserted all that information from the illustration right onto there. So it already shows you what that includes with the item, right? So like they say, no, that's included with this, that's included. No, it's not, you know what I mean? I already did that. I don't have to point you to the illustration because it's already there, right? Will that work? No, you know, but it works a lot. It cuts off their argument that they were gonna go at, you know, more times than not. But still, you're gonna have to still deal with the people who say, oh, we don't pay for that. You still have to deal with that, right? But remember, we're putting our best foot forward, starting at the highest place to end up at the highest place, all the fundamentals of our game plan every single time. We go through the motions. We don't know what they're gonna prove and what they're not. We go through the motion. We do it right every time, right? So, all right, replace the shingle type panel siding. Oops, wrong way. And more of that, right? More footnotes, lap siding, footnotes, siding trim, footnotes, fascia, custom fascia, wrap, custom fascia, soffit, paint, gutters, silicone, right? Right elevation, all the same stuff, right? Right elevation, but replace. Rear elevation, replace, replace, replace. Rear elevation, same stuff. Over, just repetitive, right? Left elevation, same thing. And then we get into the wood fence. By the way, you notice I don't put anything about depreciation in my stuff. On the contracts, I don't have to do that. All right, then we get into the interior. As I said, I like to sketch everything. And you can see, when I was talking about blinds and all that, that's what I do. I add in final cleaning at the end, 88, right? But then after the line items, I'm putting in code documentation. All the codes that I referenced are there. Then, all the photos you've already seen, right? So I'm at 88, right? With no roof, remember? And I sent the estimate in to USAA. That triggered the re-inspect. New adjuster comes out, doesn't have the estimate, asks me, do you have an estimate? I said, well, I've got an estimate, of the framework of one in place, but I need to know, like I said before, I need to know what it is that you're going to approve. My main thing, I got to get the siding approved, right? And I handed to him on my phone those 5 reasons. He's like, this is really good. That ought to do it. You know what I mean? He agreed it was ripped up. He couldn't believe they didn't approve it in the first place, right? But he's like, can you get this to me? I was like, yeah, for sure. Like, when I send you the ESX, it'll be on the ESA. He's like, okay, great. So we go through the walkthrough. He agrees with just about everything I have on there, including we found new damage in rooms that hadn't shown leaks yet. So he added a couple rooms onto it. And the next day, I believe, had the estimate ready. Because it didn't take him long. I did his work for him, right? And so let's look at that. Let's look at the estimate that he came up with, okay? So this is the USAA revised estimate. He starts by giving a recap of what it already was, the dwelling, 36. And then here's the updates, other structures. This is interesting right here. They approved the siding, the full replacement, but they paid it out under building codes, which is significant, okay? Because building codes are PWI, paid when incurred, meaning none of this money's available until the work's done. You know what I mean? Now, in this case, my client, the contractor, he was cool with that. He was real solid. The clients were good. He didn't want to wait any longer. He just wanted to get it built. You know what I mean? USAA is pretty quick on getting that money released. We knew that too. But if I really wanted to, I could have went back to him and said, hey, you categorize this under the building codes, but what about direct physical damage? What about all the other reasons that I gave you? You see what I mean? You're going to have to move this around because this is too much of a burden for the client to have to come up with all that money. Yeah? And because it's USAA, I bet you they would work right with that. They would work with that for their member. They're pretty good about that kind of thing, right? But fortunately, I didn't need to do that. I want to point that out, though, because building codes is PWI, right? Okay, so he approved all that, though, 68 grand in building codes. I think it's probably the only time I've seen something like that, that much of building codes, except for like commercial jobs.
Or do you think he lumped it under that to be able to get it approved?
Right, probably, right. I don't.
Talking inter-office lingo.
I don't think it was him. I think when he submitted it, it was the inside. They're like, oh, we're putting this on our building codes, right? But I don't really know, to be honest.
That clears the guy inside not get his button a ringer.
True.
From his boss up.
True.
Higher up.
And that's what it is. It's all CYA, guys. It's all CYA, right? So look, the roof. Remember, we're not doing that, but the roof went up just because the price list changed. You know what I mean? Okay, now that's the thing. They send out adjusters right after these storms. Immediately get out there, and then they're all done because by the time everything's visited the first time, they're cut and sent home, right? But like, I think I'm cynical about it. I think they rush out to do that. I know there's state laws and things, but I think they rush before the new price list comes out. Because after a hurricane like this, the prices go through the roof on that next update. So that's not a big storm around here. Don't submit your estimates until the price list changes. That's the one thing I learned a long time ago. Learned that back in Miami. I had like 40 people waiting. I didn't submit anything. I'm tarping it up and waiting for the price. It used to update quarterly back then. They'd have emergency update about a month later, but it was hardcore. But I looked like the genius. You know what I mean?
What's the time that they do the price updates?
Every month.
Yeah.
Every month, yep. So master bedroom, like I said, we added some rooms, living room, blah, 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 blah. But this is the punchline I want to get to right here, because this is what basically, like, he had to come up with reasons to get the siding approved. And so this is what he came up with. He wrote out 5 different reasons in his estimate as to why the siding needed to be replaced. Look familiar? And that, my friends, is how you put words into an adjuster's mouth. Because that got paid based on that. You know what I mean? I didn't come up with that, the adjuster did. Makes sense? Okay, so now, so like, let's look through this. Yeah, word for word, right? Even the footnotes.
Copy paste.
Yep. Footnotes, all the same footnotes. Remember, by the way, I remember when he was done with all this, and you'll see it is $110,000. So from 36 to 110, where's it at? Right here. Yeah, 110,496. I remember him telling me, like, at the end of all that, we went from 36 to 110. He's like, man, you were just great to work with. I really appreciate all your work on this and everything. So you know what I mean? Like, you get them, they love you as they're handing you all this money because you did their job for them.
Well, it ain't his job, but he might be getting paid on that percentage.
And that's a crucial point, right? Is that, so you don't really know how they're getting paid because it's different for all of them, but it could be based on the exact dollar amount or it's based on a scale. Usually the size matters though, okay? And sometimes, they only have like a $20,000 authority and they're trying to screw you basically just because they don't want to go over 20 because then it'd have to go to someone else. If I know that, I'll let them do it. Go ahead, bud. Make it $19,999. I don't care, because I'm going to get my money later. I'm going to still get my money, you know what I mean? It helps to know. See, like, I don't think all adjusters are bad. I try to think of look through their eyes. If you want to set out to become an adjuster, you wouldn't immediately get like a staff cushy job. You'd have to go deploy somewhere like that, or a big hailstorm. You'd have to go do that first to get that under your belt. And you know that, and you're sitting around waiting for it to happen. You're getting yourself ready for it. And you know that when you go out and do it, you have to use your own like credit cards to pay for stuff like your food and gas and hotel because it takes a while to get paid, right? And it's usually an independent contractor type situation. You're an independent adjuster working for an independent firm, and they pay you after claims get paid. So like you don't get the credit for getting paid on this until the payment goes out, right? And so like if it's just delayed and all that stuff, or if you try to send your supplement to the field adjuster, yeah, you might like right at the moment, like you're delaying his payment. You're like, dude, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, so like I have a video on my YouTube channel. I'm meeting with a commercial adjuster on a commercial flat roof. And it was funny, I actually saw, you see that one? I actually had seen him 3 years prior on a residential deal. He was with Amica, and I had made a video of him then too, that's why I recognized him. I literally filmed this poor guy twice, you know what I mean? I don't even know if he knows it, but saw him again on the commercial deal, Like I'm acting like I'm taking pictures, but I'm really videoing everything, recording them. And so the commercial, he was with Nation Lloyd's, and I'm there telling him, hey, don't forget, we need parapet wall flashing here. It's required by code. And he's like, oh man, Nation Lloyd's is not like Amica. They don't pay for anything. They're no good. I'm like, well, it's required by code. He's like, yeah, I know, but they're not going to pay for that. I said, okay, tell you what. Because this is what I do with field adjusters. Like, I try to push them as far as I can. I'm always respectful, diplomatic, professional. People picture me like out there arguing with them and yelling at them and slamming. I never do any of that. I'm a strict professional, right? I told him, I said, okay, bud, listen, get me my ISO board in there, get me this and get me that. And who deals with your supplements? He's like, the inside. I go, okay, great. Get me all those things, okay?